I post. Yeah, I don't really see a reason to wait 2 minutes more because there is no start or end. But I guess you can talk about this input. It's of course ridiculous to have \newlines in the middle of include in the middle of the file name that you include. It's a bit more normal not to have \newlines here. But a preprocessor starts with deleting every \newline. So you can add \newlines wherever you want. It really doesn't matter. It's the first thing that is being deleted. And then whitespace of course is ignored as well. It just sometimes it separates tokens sometimes. It's not always necessary. For example, foo is a token and the parenthesis open is a token. You don't need a space in between that. But this space is required. But it doesn't really matter if you have one space or a new line or many spaces or tabs or whatever. Well, it's 7 p.m. I think I'm gonna have a look at the code. I think the best way to begin this is by looking at how I did the include. But the include is already detected, so it goes all the way up till here. And then it searches for, well, it doesn't really search, I've just used the lexer. The lexer then gives me the int. Yeah, so then we are at the I. So then all of this up till the int is the gap. It's also printed here. So the define is still in there. The define was not detected, but include was. Otherwise the include would have been here in front of that as well. It would be part of the gap. So where the hell is it detecting stuff? I have several files. I guess I think it's either one of these. I think it must be this one basically. And I guess there must be something like include. Well, not that. Maybe in the header then. Also not. Nope. Maybe the word directive. Also not. It must be adding it. Let's see. Maybe go from the debug output and somewhere here it should say. It does that one. Adding wood token, process gap. Adding C++ comments, adding white space, adding directive hash. And that is part of add input token directive hash. I thought I was looking for directive. Well, I guess I was looking in the wrong file. Preprocessor events handler. Ah, okay. So the preprocessor is giving me events. Gonna hide this count. I don't want to see how few people are watching. It's already clear that nobody's interested, but I'm gonna do this anyway. Oops, what did I do? Damn it. Layer top. Okay. Yeah, apparently it's an event, a preprocessor event. What do I have here? Callback invoked whenever an inclusion directive of any kind, include, import, etc., has been processed, regardless of whether the inclusion will actually result in an inclusion. Blah blah blah. Okay, so this is the include. So the question is, why do we get here? Okay, well, I was looking for include, but it is called inclusion. Really, why? Of course, we have to tell it to call this function somewhere. I'm just going to look for that. Oh, oh, that's strange. Maybe it's a virtual function, because I just define it here. So why is it calling it then, right? So it's probably an virtual function that is being called of that class. I'm going to go back here. Have a closer look at it. It is an override. Aha. So then we can go to the base class of this thing. Go to the base class of inclusion directive. What the hell? That doesn't exist. Is this that is a header already, of course. Preprocessor callbacks. Well, that must be the one then, right? So we jump there. There it is. And then here we have post inclusion directive. So apparently you can register yourself for these events by simply overriding virtual functions. That looks like the same text. Don't tell me I copied it. Maybe I just copied it. Entered submodule, left submodule. Call back whenever a submodule was entered. I never used modules, so I never used import. It's gonna bite me at some point if I ever have to support that. Callback invoked when an ident or a SCCS director is read. Not really interested in that yet. Pragma directive. Pragma comments. Pragma. Okay. Are we going to have to do all of these things one by one? It's going to take a year, man. This is called a macro invocation. Who called whenever a macro definition is seen? We found it. Da, 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 da. Okay, gonna copy this. And then we have to go to the preprocessor events handler. Yep. I already have it. You gotta be kidding me, right? Yep. Okay, so this is called, and then if not enabled to return. Maybe I don't think we ever saw this one. Nope. Okay, so that means that apparently this enabled here is false. What is that enabled? Enabled is true if the callbacks are enabled. If false, all callbacks should be ignored. Well, the include wasn't ignored, so what? So either we don't get that callback, or my enabled is suddenly false or true. False, I mean. Let's set a breakpoint on the macro defined. See if we ever get that rule for the define. That should be the case. Wait a minute, I have to do the right thing. So that would be foo, right? Foo has a define. Yeah, this is the one. Gonna do cwformat, and that thing lives in the build dir, and we are going to run it in GDB with arguments. That would be the foo.cpp. Breakpoint, yeah, well, we have a breakpoint. No such file or directory. Oops, builder. Yep, they are being called with macro defined. Well, there's only one macro in my foo.cpp, so that it should be working. Let's see if this makes sense. Pointer data. I can't read this. Oh, it's a token. Anyway, what is enabled? Enabled is false. So that's really strange. We have an enter file. Okay, I need to know where this object is being created. So I can set a watch point on enabled, maybe. Or I can just look at the source code to get an idea. But I want to know where this thing is being created. Anyways. That would be it, right? Makes standard make unique. That's where it is created. Yep. So we put a breakpoint here, and then we have the object. Let me see what a constructor does. It is using a constructor that gets a translation unit passed to it. That would be this one, it's the only one. And it sets enable to true. So after construction it is enabled, and then it should be disabled at some point. Let's just set a breakpoint here and then use a watch. That would be line 77 in this file. Where did that go to though? Add pp callbacks. Grep sources. pp callbacks. Oh, that's already in clang itself. No, yeah. It's being added to the base class. So that is a member callbacks. I think I already have callbacks. Then it does this. C is overridden. What? Oh, it makes it changes stuff together. So in the end, we get something, maybe a change callback thing in callbacks. I think this is the first one. So. And that should be part of pp. So this should be a pointer to the preprocessor events handler. If I call get on this, is it going to tell me the type? Yes, that type is there. So that thing has an enabled underscore. No, damn it. Enable. What was it? Also not. That's nonsense. This is the clang pp callbacks. My preprocessor events handler. Is derived from that. I'll have to cast it, I guess. I'm not sure GDB can do that. Can try it. Yeah, but it's not correct. It should be adding the size of this thing. What the heck? Maybe the size is 0? Nah, no way. No, I have to do it differently. I'll just set a breakpoint on the constructor of the thing. Now we have this pointer. It is suspiciously the same as I found a second ago. So maybe it is correct. It's really strange. Oh, wait a minute. No, I want to print this. Yeah, it's still the same value. Okay, so now we can print. Use this pointer. And then we print enable. Whatever it was called, of course. Oh yeah, enabled. It was enabled. Yeah, it is currently true. So now we can print the address of that. Pointer to bool, and you can set a watch point on the content of a bool pointer at that address. Continue. That is being set to false. Here, enabled is reason equals next file change reason enter file and FID equals. Okay. So yeah, it is because the lex file change is detected. I think there was an enter file, I just printed it. It is this one. We are entering a file, but the FID is different from what we expect. So it thinks that we are not inside the file that we are processing. Well, I'm pretty sure that we are, because that's the file. This says enter file, the file that we are processing. So enabled should be true. Now, these are unequal, of course, otherwise enabled would not have become false. FID is 2 and the translation unit file ID is 1. They are unequal. Now the question is, which one is the one that belongs to foo? Should it have been 1 or should it have been 2? And then the other one should be 2 or 1. I think it's actually using these things as well. We were at the, I think it's just file ID. We were at previous file ID. That is 1, and that is being printed here after the file type. So it is user file, and this is the previous file. So we switch from the file that we want to investigate to a build-in something. That's why it's turned off. Well, that's annoying, because the built-in thing is only because I think it's kind of like a temporary thing. Yeah, you can only really switch to a file that I'm not interested in upon an include, I think. I'm wondering if ID 1 is always used for the built-in or not. I think we would need documentation to understand this. Lex file changed. Callback invoked when the lexer moves to a different file for lexing. Unlike file changed, line number directives and other related pragmas do not trigger callbacks to lex file changed. Probably should though, which means that I should be using file changed, I think. But yeah. If ID, the file ID that the lexer moved to, reason whether the lexer entered a new file or exited one. File type is the characteristic kind of the file the lexer moved to. File ID the lexer was using before the change. The location the lexer entered a new file from, or the location that the lexer moved into after exiting a file. Okay, time to Google something. Build minus in. Returns a file name for the provided file ID unless it's a built-in buffer that's not represented by a file name. Is that going to be useful somehow? No. Well, I could use it to test if it is built in, but That would be even better to test that. Yeah, I could use this. What is this? A member function or something? Public member functions of what classes? Struct memory buffer sizes? What? No, source manager. Okay, well, I'll probably have that. Is written inbuilt in what written or is it? It's like literally comparing the file name with built-in. Wow. Sophisticated. Yeah, it's not working for me. I think what I need is the spelling location. It is just difficult. End of like. Yeah, let's is a problem, of course. I'm working with offsets here. These are all offsets relative to the current file. So if the current file is not the file that I expect, yeah, maybe it is a source location. I don't think I need to be in the AST actually. So There's also a shitload of get locations there. Now is it base lex? Probably. Anyhow, it is source location. Probably just clang source location. I just try to jump there. Clang source location. Location is just a line and a column? No. Is file ID or is macro ID? And or maybe? No. It's mutually exclusive. Fuck this. Okay, let's comment this out and step through it. See what we get. Pratique. Wow. How you pronounce it? If you mean the formatting thing. Yeah, you see, this basically there's nothing to follow because it's just me working, and I'm not streaming everything. So sometimes I just stream something of a project that I already started a while ago. But I try to make each stream more or less self-contained, as in the description I say what I'm starting to work on, and then if say I'm trying to fix a bug and I fix it, then I stop the stream. So more or less, and that's about that one bug. Now we are in strange tab again. And where was I going to put my breakpoint? Macro defined. Yeah, it says built in to 9. So it's line 2, column 9. It's probably nothing to do with the foo. We can check that, I guess. No, line 1, line 2, column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hello, A4. Yeah, then maybe this. The end location is in the same. Well, what are we talking about? MD-fine. It goes from column 9 till column 18. So it's something that's 9 long. That's not just a define, but it's hardly anything more than that. Maybe. Oh, wait a minute. We talk about the define. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't see anything that is 9. Or maybe the define itself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Nope. Nothing is 9 long. And it's definitely the line number, right? So it's definitely not a line number of foo. Sorry, it's not included, it's this one. So it has a built-in something, and then why would a built-in? It's talking about this. Have a second line number. So confusing. I see. Yeah, well, I probably best to just look at the source code then. So yeah, how I do that. So this is just a CW format on the GitHub. Color wood without a space. But yeah, I'm learning too. The problem is that there is, as far as I see, no documentation. Like there is just, if you search and you find what oxygen generated, which is very minimal. Do you have a real question like, how do I find out if this macro is defined in a certain file? The only thing I get is that it is a built-in file. Yeah, so where does it come from? I can't find that shit. Maybe it's described somewhere, but I probably should be on a mailing list and then ask questions there and hope someone will answer. But I'm trying to debug my way through it. I have the feeling that maybe this is even nonsense. So what would we get here? This location here is it's probably in the '27. Is this 27? Looks more, actually. If I count the comments, definitely count the comments, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh yeah, haha. This is 27. And I want to find that point. So that offset is definitely not in my file. Nobody knows where it is. If you give me an offset, then at least you can show me the buffer that it is the offset in. But no, that's probably just nonsense. I ask it to give me an integer and it gives me an integer. But no. See, it's just in the middle of the comment. It's just bullshit. Bullshit. So it must be disabled here because these values don't make any sense. I have no idea what to do here, really. I don't know. Why there are multiple macro directive structs? Oh, this is a namespace debug. Oh, this is even my one. Never mind. This one is in legs. That's maybe it. Clang legs. How many others do we have? That is the class. Oh, okay. This one is. There is only one of these. So it does have a source location, but the source location doesn't make any sense. I can't do anything with it. It is super irritating. Irritating, I mean. So there should be, like it says here, there should be one instance. I'm gonna guess this is 1-on-1, so there should be one instance of macro info per macro that is defined. So if whatever defined, you get a macro info. So if I have a macro info, then that's the one that belongs to my macro. And you can get that from the definition macro directive object. At least that has a pointer to it. The macro directive also has a pointer. At least I saw it. This is the macro directive pointer. Macro info. That's a def info again. Yeah, macro info. Get macro info, get definition, get macro info. Get definition returns a def info, and that has a pointer to the macro info. And that is part of macro directive. Which is this thing. So I should be able to get a macro info pointer. Let's try to start with that then. Before we leave this function, I'm gonna do macro info pointer. Debug ostream, so I can print macro infos, I think. Yep. So I can construct my own macro info from translation unit and a reference to the clang macro info. And then we can print it. Because in order to print it, we need a translation unit apparently. So I need a reference to the clang macro info. So this is our own macro info, I guess. This is my own file. I'm gonna construct that thing from the, what was it? Translation unit, probably this thing. So check that again. No, reference to the translation unit. Well, my translation unit is probably nobody knows. This is nobody knows what it is. I'm gonna guess that it's we can dereference it. Well, take a reference to it. Okay. And then the second thing was clang macro info reference also. So I have my macro directive, which is maybe the clang thing. This is again the thing that we need to print it. I'm just going to call get macro info, but that gives a pointer. unknown type name macro info. Well, I wanted to have this one. Oh, that's a debug thing. How does that work then? I can't imagine I have to construct it. No, I think I would do something like... I vaguely remember it. Very, very, very vaguely. I think it's something like this. Yeah, that's how it's done. So I create some kind of object that takes the translation unit, and then I use that to print it, to print the stuff. So that is very, very alike. So let's look at the print source location. That thing is defined here. There's a print in front of it. No, something with print and macro. Nope. Probably have to add it then. The macro directive sits in debug in the namespace. Sorry, in the debug namespace. Yeah, the debug is used to return something, then that then is printable. So I need maybe the token should is printed already. Yeah, print token, right. So this thing is missing for that one. So we do have one for the token, and we do have one for the source something, source location. I just didn't add one yet for the macro directive as an example. So macro directive instead of token. Then I can construct a print macro directive from the translation unit. like that then. Yeah. MD is a pointer. What the fuck, it already exists. You gotta be kidding me. Yeah, that is really sad. Yeah, okay, of course it exists, because why would it not? Okay. Arg. Okay, so it says entering this thing. And then the second argument is my macro info thing, yeah. Macro directive. I want to print the info thing. Well, maybe it's printing it as part of that. To the macro directive thing as wait a minute, this one. There's a print on. And that prints, yeah, it does print the macro info. So it just prints it here. So this is the this is in namespace debug. So this is the debug macro info, constructed from the translation unit and the dereference pointer. So at some point you have a less than, to a larger than, comma, then the thing that we're interested in, and then an add, which is the followed by the source location. I see shitloads of adds followed by source locations and the less thans. What? But hey, this is the foo.cpp. It says identifier add. Why? I just looked at it. Macro defined print token macro name talk. This must be the token. No. This thing prints that. Okay, this comma is that comma. So the print token prints this. Yeah, or this comma, of course. That is the case, then definitely need to okay, this is my brace. And there's the closing brace. So that's the comma. Yeah, then this is a very unclear comma. I think if you print a comma here, then you need braces around it. So that thing was clear, but the parent macro directive is not clear. Anyway, so the macro directive here is existing of, that would be this part. So it says that it is a define, and then we get this stuff, and then we get a location. I would like to know what that location is, because where is that pointing to? That's the end of the define. What? Is that the end? It's the end location at the end or something. Building. It's the same location as is being shown here. Do. Looks like a begin location to me. So this is the end location. End location. Totally not. That is not the end location. Fuck. No, maybe I think, oh wait, yeah, well, never mind. So, line 9, column 13. It is not in column 13. That is the end. Okay, that's correct. Let's look at the begin again then. The begin is in column 9. Yeah, okay. So this is the begin, source location, and the end location. Then a second ago it was here, but that was the wrong column. So it is the beginning of the, well, whatever comes after the define. Now it would be nice to have the beginning of the define also somewhere, or that would be line 7, column 1. Don't see that. One is not mentioned. Why not? Yeah, well, it's all very beautiful, except that it doesn't point me to the define itself. Isn't it slightly weird? So there's information missing here. I'm building a formatter, C++ formatter. It begins with lexing the C++ code. I mean, this is the callback. There is nothing else. I mean, we encounter the define. Well, that has to define a macro, and this is then what we get called back, as far as I know. And the macro name is printed in full. That doesn't have a source location, does it? I mean, it's the name of the macro, so it's definitely not. Maybe that's a problem, actually. The name of the macro is where we are here. That's the first source location that it gives. But that's already beyond the define. Maybe there's another callback that tells me that where the define is. Yeah, because the token itself also had a source location, right? It just does this. Nine. So yeah. So I think this callback belongs to this thing here, plus the whole definition and the tokens and everything, but nothing about where that happened. Maybe there's another callback. I hope there is. Macro defined. Macro defined. Yeah, it's more like in preprocessor directive, right? The define itself, the hashtag it's define. I'm going to have a look at what class was this again. So the preprocessor callbacks happen here. Let's see what you all have. File changed. Nope. Lexed file changed. Nope. File skipped. Embed file not found. Embed directive. Callback invoked whenever an embed directive has been processed. I don't know what that is. But that gives me a hash lock, the location of the hash that starts the embed directive. I don't know what it is. Is it a special thing? Oh, okay, there's a new thing. C23. Bit directive, file not found. Inclusion directive. Yeah, the inclusion, that's an annoying thing here. The inclusion directive, then they give you the source location of the hash. That's the hash location. But the define, no, let's not do that in that case. Ridiculous. Entered submodule, left submodule, module import, end of main file, ident. It's also a special thing. Pragma. No, it's definitely not Pragma this. Loads of Pragmas. Pragma. Macro defined. No, that's it. So this is just missing the location of the hash and the location of the defined keyword. So this one is called for an if. Well, I get a source location. I doubt that is the hash source location. So it's also missing here. That's the end. Nope, I think we'll have to figure it out ourselves. So I'm going to skip the define, and then that's going to be part of the gap, and then we have to find it ourselves in the gap. But probably, well, that's my verdict. That's how it has to work. So the callback was... Wait a minute, I have a macro definition. What the hell is the difference? Yeah, the definition thing contained a lot of information, right? It's being passed to macro expense and macro undefined. Just defined. Oh, this is a defined operating machine. Yeah, never mind. Okay. Well, first of all, we need to figure out if this is a macro that is being defined in a header or in our thing. So I need to get I'm still very worried about this offset because it should have worked. Macro name talk get location was the correct thing, wasn't it? So I do get source location. But the enabled could be false because we might be in built-in, but that doesn't tell me anything really because I don't care that we entered the built-in. So maybe it should, I don't know, ignore when we enter built-in, entering and exit built-in. That it's just, well, who cares? And in that case, enabled would still be true. Or I can just look at that source location here and see if that has is the correct file. Still, well, yeah. Okay, I think I can do both, as in I want to get my enabled correct, so this should be here. But if it is disabled, while it shouldn't be, then we assert. Yeah, that is, I think it's a nice thing to do here. So I'm going to assert here if we are not, well, if the macro is defined in the, so that something like this macro is disabled, so this macro is not defined in our main source file. That means that one, I need to get the location of the macro. And I think I might as well use token here. Clang token has a source location. And that was working for me. So yeah, get source location. And then from the source location, we need to get the file ID. So we have a source location. That looks pretty basic, this. Yeah, is file ID. Ooh. Oh, what the fuck is macro ID? What the hell is the difference? I think this can't be a macro ID, because that would probably mean that it is a macro expansion, and this is not a macro expansion because it is the definition of the macro. So I bet it will always be a valid thing. Valid means not zero, and it is a file ID means that something is zero. So we have to test both. It's file ID. Talk like ChatGPT, as if you know it. This is how it is. I'm just guessing, but that's between you and me. Yeah, and then do get the file ID. How do we do that? Oh, right, and it said that in the comments. You need a source manager for that. So the source manager should be able to convert a source location into a file ID. Create file ID? No. Get or create file ID? Create macro argument expansion location. So that's how you get those things. Get file ID, there it is. But then it must be a spelling location. Well, like, I'm just hoping that it is. What else can we do? I'm just gonna call get file ID, passing the source location. And then we need to have the source manager. Well, I would normally call that the source manager, and it gets a color. So I hope we have access to it. And then it must be the case that the file ID is unequal. Okay, and that was something like, well, that had to do with the same thing as where I reset enabled to false. Somewhere I had enabled is there. Yeah. Translation unit file ID. And apparently I call those things FID. Yeah, okay, whatever. So after doing that, we should assert here, because I do set enabled false while the macro is defined in foo.cpp. So these should be equal, both should be 2, I think, and then we assert. And we don't have a source manager. Okay, where are we then? Maybe you can get it from the translation unit. No reason to duplicate stuff. Translation unit reference. That is the translation unit reference implementation with a translation unit reference as template parameter, which is allowing me to print stuff, and this is all debug. So we don't have anything except translation units. And the type of that is reference to the translation units. The translation units source manager. I wish I would use all cores instead of just one. Ridiculous. Maybe you should switch your models. Assert. Assertion. FID is unequal, translation unit file ID failed. Yay, success. Okay, so it detects the problem. That will help us when our assumptions that I'm going to make will fail somewhere in the future. Because now I'm going to change this enabled to be not false if we enter a built-in file. So this can be then, it is enabled if the previous ID was equal to the translation unit file and the current one is built in. That would work. Kind of weird though. Oh, no, it's not weird. Well, actually it is weird, because... No, it's not weird. I'm trying to understand the logic of this Boolean expression. At the moment we enter the current translation unit, we are enabled. So if we exit anything, we are disabled, and if the ID is something else, then we are also always disabled. Maybe it is as simple as that we get a callback for exit file of the current translation unit if I do an include. While I'm not getting the exit now, we just enter something else while still have being entered in the translation unit. So I think I should first investigate what happens if we do an include. Maybe I can use it, solve it like that. Yeah, so we make a different file, I guess. Foo2. Oh, was already in use. It does have an include though. Oh, it's a bit messy. Foo3. So we're gonna do include foo3.h, and then we do the define. It should give me the callback. And then we have the foo3.h, which also does define. Foo3h. Well, that's interesting. So there is an exit value. So we enter foo3, that's just the very beginning. And then we enter built-in without leaving foo3. And then we exit foo3. And then enter foo3.h. So there is indeed, it exits the foo3cpp explicitly. Might as well use that and ignore the whole build-in completely, because, well, we didn't leave the foo3. But there is something weird. We have exited this file already, and now we exit it again. Can someone explain that to me? Probably a bug. A bug in Clang. It should be enter file. Why is it saying exit file? It's going from foo3.h to that one. This should not be exit. Extremely annoying. Or it should be exit that one. Or maybe it's not a bug and we have to interpret the exit file as being exiting that and entering that. Really? Yeah, actually that is the case. So this exit file means we exit built-in and then we are back there. Okay. Which means that the built-in is not acting different from the foo.h. Right? We are in foo3.cpp and then we get an enter, well, maybe. We just entered this apparently without leaving that one, but it was the previous one, but okay, we are. So we are here and now we're entering that one, but that means that because this is enter file, we are not leaving this one. Can interpret it like that. And I think then after this one, we clearly left that one, so now we are in foo3 again, so it's the same after that one. And then I get also an enter file, but then here, yeah, there's no difference really. So now we enter foo3.h without leaving foo3.cpp. And then we exit foo3 again, or back where we were. Okay, so there's no difference between built-in and a header. Now I have to explicitly look at the string built-in. And then just ignore that file name or there was another way I think, but okay. Now why is this going wrong? It isn't exactly clear. Macro defined. We are not in built-in, we are not in foo3. That is probably because I'm not handling the exit file correctly. I'm ignoring that, so my code thinks we're still in foo3.h. Okay, let's copy this. So we have the flow. Let's first write it in the stupid way and then maybe optimize it. So if the reason is enter file, aka this one, then it doesn't really matter where we came from, I think. It cannot be in two files at the same time. So now we're just here. So that is the F something, right? So the current FID becomes that one. else if the reason equals, well, what else can it be? But I'm afraid it can be more than, yeah, system herpragma. What the, or rename file. I have no idea what to do with those things. Assert maybe. What was the other one? Oh yeah, exit file, of course. So it is exit file, we do something, and else I'm just gonna assert, dude, what the hell. So in the case of the exit file, we are exiting this one and entering that one. So there's really absolutely no difference whatsoever between these two. Huh? I think I can optimize that. Let's see if this makes sense. Super vague. So basically, it's a reason, but there is no difference between exiting and entering, I would say. Yeah, no, okay. If you include a header file, then hey, a new file. I never saw that before, but you enter it. And then if you return to the file that did include, then they didn't want to call that enter file. So they thought, well, let's call it exit file then, because the real reason is that we reached the end of foo3.h, the header file. So I returned from the... But we don't care. We just care about where we are, and that is always FID. So what I'm going to do is simplify this into, it's just FID. Probably don't even have to assert, because also in the other case, probably we don't care. So the reason is not important. That, however, if we enter a built-in, then enabled should not use FID, but the previous FID, I think. So if FID is built-in, then we should test rather the previous FID. But yeah. Which is the same as ignoring the built-in, I think. How do I test if the FID is a built-in? I think I needed the source manager for that. That was the source manager. Ja, so is built-in. So if we go to the built-in, then enable should stay what it was. But we know what it was because that was just when FID was that value. So I might as well calculate it again. No state, as it were. Returns where the log is located in a built-in file. You need to pass a full source location. What is log? Log, the location the lecture entered a new file. Entered a new file from? Or the location that the lecture moved into after exiting a file. Okay, so this is not it. Damn it. File ID then maybe. No. Still need the source manager, I think. But there was nothing else, right? No, file ID. No. Wait a minute. Yeah, well, I can use this one because that takes a file ID. So we call this, and then it optional tells us if it is returns a standard null pointer for non-files and built-in files. That's probably what I want. Can do this one. This takes a. Oh, there's nothing else. Suppose you can just test standard optional. And if it is false, then it was a built-in. Null files. No, it still doesn't work because the way I got my offsets was not working. There are no offsets apparently, because I'm trying to calculate the offset of a position in the built-in relative to, well, not working. Let's see if it crashes or something. Totally crashes. But it's because of an assertion. Oh, it's not enter file or exit file. Interesting. It's totally enter file. Oh, and yeah, that should have been or. When does this happen? Well, always. 100% of the time. Yeah, the offset is just nonsense. So we enter built-in and then we get the macro defined. And that is The 27 is nonsense. What is this? This one though. Let's see what should happen. It should just process the include correctly. I'm not seeing that. I don't understand this at all. It's suddenly not talking anymore about entering foo3.h. Why? The macro defined should be inside the foo3.h. It says that it is in built-in. Maybe the define is not handled because also because the enable, I don't know. So maybe because of this. No. The hash location should be the location of the hash that starts the inclusion directive. That should totally be in foo3.cpp. But then why am I not seeing this anymore? Let's move this a bit down. Unbelievable. This is called before the include, which is impossible, because there is no define in foo.3.cpp. Man, these compile times, it's really too long. No change. No, I probably lost it in, don't have it in my scroll back anymore. I do. So before we had an enter the built-in, then we exit the built-in. Why would it suddenly never exit the built-in anymore? And then we get the inclusion directive. So enter built-in, exit. Sorry, what is this? Exit. Huh? Oh no, this is the built-in. Exit built-in. And then the inclusion directive. And here we get macro defined. Okay, let's do nothing in macro defined then. Because after all, it is doing nonsense. That's one big built-in. I think that I think I understand it. Okay, the built-in is the whole built-in thing is the predefined macros, which are a lot. I should definitely ignore all of those. So now entering built-in is suddenly something that we should ignore. The built-in also includes a pragma directive, which we are not handling. What is this? This is the pointer to the current object. Why do I get a wall of text for a simple question? Yeah, a C++ formatter, but the problem is with the clang. Dude, this is the single line that I asked for. It's like literally printed 10 pages. Okay, and this one then. So 2 lines. If it works at all. macro info. The hell do I have to pass through lang opt? Probably this. Got no access over that. What's with the extra space here? Everywhere. Maybe I probably should not print the end location. You give up. It's not logical. Right. Yeah, I'm getting tired. Sleepy. I think I'm gonna stop. I really hate this. The only thing I'm stuck on is just third-party library. I'm hardly coding myself. Just trying to figure out how stuff works that someone else wrote. Really sucks. Losing my pawn. Oh, he doesn't see it. Well. Yeah. Yeah. True. That was not true. Could have taken with the rook though, I think. Yes, absolutely. Or not. Also not. Huh? I just exchanged one. Oh, just exchanged one? No, my knight was here. So, yeah. Oh, that was stupid. Could have given check anyway. This is also not bad. But yeah, no, yeah, it's still really bad. Oh no, yeah, with check. Why am I doing this to myself? Completely lost game. Instantly, completely lost game. Nah, can't play chess. Okay, stop the stream. I'll be back another time.